The story starts off with the last day of school, 8th grade. For those of you who do not know, I was born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. Yes, the accent's gone. Yes, 15 years born and raised there, and I'm still relatively okay. It was the last day of school, like I said. Exams were done. The bell rang. We ran out. It was time for the end of year party. So we jumped in our cars, not our cars, our parents' cars, because of course, 8th grade. And we rode out to Freddie Bracken's house. Freddie was a little richer than the rest of us, so we were having a pool party complete with all the fixins. Oh, that was a little southern. Sorry about that. Halfway through the party, close to the end of the party, everything's done. We've been swimming. I'm tired of swimming, so I go join my best friend Corey on the trampoline. Corey double bounces me, and when I hit the back of the trampoline when I come back down, something was obviously very wrong. So I am at this point screaming my head off. Another friend of mine goes, "It's okay, put this hairbrush in your mouth and everything will be okay." So I'm screaming with a hairbrush in my mouth while my mother is eating brownies at the pool because she doesn't quite know that scream is a scream that she should recognize. I mean, she should recognize it and does, but So, long story short, things are clearly not right. And luckily, Freddie's father is a plastic surgeon and a bone something or other. So he calls one of his coworkers who brings me a boot. They put me in a car. And on our way to the hospital, I am singing some weird piano song that I have been taught as a kid, like loudly in the background, like probably Chopsticks, and I'm not going to do that to you guys right now. But my sister turns to me and says, my twin sister, "What is wrong with you?" And my mother says, "Shh, she'll probably be okay." So we get to the doctor. I go in for x-rays and everything, and I come out of the room, and my sister is sobbing, and I pat her knee and I say, there, Emily, I'll be just fine." Later, I think they told us, or at least they told my family, that I had broken 2 parts of my ankle. My leg had collapsed in, crushing the growth plate, and I would require surgery. But because the injury was so bad, it would at least take a couple days for the swelling to go down for them to operate. What I then learned on the way home, which I remember very vividly, is me sitting in the back of my father's Mazda. He came to the hospital, he was at work, and was taking me home, and told me in the best way possible that Emily was not crying for me. She was crying because my grandmother, my dad's mother, had died that morning. And my father had told her while she was waiting for me outside of the x-ray room. So I then lost 2 days, thanks to heavy medication that I needed to have to deal with the pain. I remember getting a giant stuffed polar bear that I thought was just so great that my aunt and uncle thought that I really needed that. I had no real recollection of what was happening at the time and why I was getting special attention. I thought it was cool my cousins came to visit me. All those things that you don't really realize when you're doped up on pain meds. And I ended up actually in the hospital after the day of my surgery, the day that my grandmother had a service. So my family, they all went to the service, as they should, and then my mother left one of her good friends who's a nurse with me in the hospital. And my mother comes back from the service and is screaming because there's a tornado warning in Birmingham, Alabama, and they have locked down the hospital I was in, but I was in the stairwell learning how to walk, which let me tell you I was not really nice about. And so my mother is going crazy, screaming at people, "Where's my daughter?" Ah! And her father is there grabbing her, pulling her aside. She's fine, she's in the stairwell, everything's going to be okay. So again, another couple days lost. I do remember that we picked out some jewelry from my grandmother's belongings. One of my cousins got a ring that he then proposed to his now wife with. I like to give them crap for it to this day because an 8th grader doped on my pain meds, I couldn't really tell what I was pointing at, and I ended up with things that just don't fit me and are strange, and that's how things work. But that summer, and this turned into this cast that I had for a really, really long time. I had to have a second surgery because they had to take out the screw that they put into my ankle, which my father then put on a necklace as a gift for Christmas that year. So I have a scar that's about this long with staples on the sides. But we then went to Alaska and Seattle for the summer. And I had to hike on crutches, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, my grandmother, my middle name is after her. I actually used to get a lot of crap for it when I was a kid. Catherine Strong Harmon. And I was this puny little white girl from Alabama who was not strong. So there were a lot of jokes about that. And it was something I was embarrassed for a really long time. But at the end of the day, she was such an amazing force that I'm honored to be named after her. And I ended up missing her funeral. I was not there with my family. I couldn't be a part of any of that because I was still in the hospital. And I told them to go as an 8th grader. And about 2 years ago, I was driving back from New York. I was at a fundraiser for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And I was driving past the Easton exit. And I went, shit, I think they're buried there. So I pulled over at the side. There are, in fact, 2 cemeteries in Easton. Went to the wrong one, went to the next one, found them, and I called my parents and my sister, and nobody answered the phone. The reason I wanted to be there is because I had promised my grandmother 2 days before I broke my ankle that I would sing Amazing Grace at her grave. So when nobody answered the phone, I sat there and talked to her about who I am now and how I hope that she would be proud of who I am. And I sang that song in silence at that grave in Easton.